again to another episode of Feeding Our Faith. Again, I'm Father Jeff, and today with us we have Lori Smack, who has come to teach us a little bit of cooking of a different style. What kind of style dish are we going to be cooking today?
We're going to do a healthy version of dirty rice, Raging Cajun dirty rice. What makes it healthy is the choice of meat that you use. And, traditionally dirty rice is made with the highest fat sausage you can find. I've kind of altered my recipe to use a little bit of lean beef, some ground turkey, and then you gotta have a little bit of andouille sausage or it's not a Cajun dish. So we're gonna start with the rice. Father Jeff, what kind of rice do you normally cook with?
Normally I'm cooking with minute rice.
Oh, well.
I don't cook much with rice.
We need to talk.
I do a lot of cooking with potatoes.
All of the Mahdi rices, basmati, these rices are a lot better than your long grain white rice because they're not as mushy. They're not going to stick to everything. They're not as gummy. And they're better for you. They've got a little bit more of the natural goodness of rice left on and not stripped off. So I'm going to use the basmati rice. We're going to do 1.5 cups. You always do double the liquid than you do the rice. So we need 3 cups of chicken broth. I never cook my rice in water. How boring is that? Not only 3 cups of chicken broth, but we're going to season the chicken broth. We're going to add some Tony Chachere's. Seasoning is, Cajun cooking is all about the seasoning. And you season from the very beginning, the very start of when you're cooking, you start seasoning. And you season to taste. I typically make it so that it's a little bit mild table and people can spice it up to their, now if I'm cooking just for my family, I usually make it a little hot and then Rob and I add more Tabasco. But the other ones are, they're like with just the red pepper. Okay, ready?
3 cups?
3 cups. And sometimes you can put the rice in and go ahead and start and watch for it to boil. Other people like to let the liquid start boiling and then add the rice. I'm going to go ahead and add the rice, and I hope you don't want exact measurements on any of these seasonings because I have absolutely no idea. You add as much as...
It's about a dash?
Yeah, or 2 or 3.
And a pinch?
It just depends. So that's onion powder, onion salt. Onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and I'm going to save the red pepper. I'm going to kind of be easy on the red pepper. We'll do a little bit of black pepper.
The garlic powder looked like it was about a 1/2 to 1/4 teaspoon.
And just a little bit of fresh garlic. And then we'll add
probably about a teaspoon of fresh garlic.
1.5 cups of rice. I'm going to put this on medium-high and watch. When it begins to boil, we'll turn it down and let it simmer for 20 minutes.
Okay. Do we do it covered or uncovered?
Uncovered until it starts boiling.
Okay. And
then we cover it for 20 minutes. Good question. Okay, the next step is going to be to get the meat started. So, Father Jeff, if you will get the meat cutting board.
Sure thing.
And get this yummy andouille sausage out of its casing because we want all ground meat. You can put chunks of meat in dirty rice, but typically it's made with all ground meat. So we're starting with this sausage. I also have 1/2 pound of 90% lean Angus ground sirloin. You can go as lean as you want. You can even use bison. And then we're also going to use 1/2 of this pound of ground turkey breast, all natural ground turkey breast. So
now how do you want these cut?
No, you're going to slice it and get the sausage out of it. We don't want the casing. So if you can just remove that from the casing. And so in our meat pot, we're going to just dump that in there.
Okay. Now, how hard is it to find andouille sausage? Is it something I can find at like Albertsons or?
In Texas or in Louisiana?
Well, in Texas.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Okay.
I have found it at Albertsons,
okay.
Not at Kroger or Tom Thumb, and then Central Market always has it.
Okay.
Sprouts is kind of hit or miss. It depends on what they have in their case at the time, but they never have it in the freezer section. And it's best if you can get it out of the case so that it's fresh and it's never been frozen. And the andouille sausage just has a little bit of the Cajun seasonings in it already. You know, you can do this with regular pork sausage or beef sausage. You just have to add a little bit more seasoning. The flavor in the andouille is classic Cajun, so that's why I usually choose that. So we're just going to do half of this ground turkey. And I think that if we can mix all of that up and start it browning.
Okay. Do I mix it before I start browning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best way. I was going to suggest that, but you know, you might have had a tool that would do it better.
No.
The tool God gave you works best.
My hand works pretty well. So I'm gonna move the rice back here to the back real quick.
Okay.
And put the meat on here. We're going to want to brown it up, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it up towards about medium high to high.
Okay.
All right.
The vegetables we're going to use are what we commonly call the Holy Trinity of seasonings: celery, pepper, and onion. You don't cook anything Cajun without celery, pepper, and onion. You must have those three. Now, sometimes you can go with just the green pepper. I typically use both the green and the red. The more vegetables I can sneak into my family, the better. So if it's cooked in a lot of sausage and rice, that's great. I'll start starting this around in cooking. If you want to kind of start, these need to be chopped fine, chop them fine.
Okay.
So.
So Lori, where'd you learn to cook?
Well, you know, I grew up in South Louisiana, although I'm not truly Cajun, you can tell from my lack of an accent, but my father did all the cooking growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother did the day-to-day cooking, you know, cooking for dinner, but my father did all of the event cooking. So he taught me how to do these dishes, how to do jambalaya, how to do gumbo. My mother has since taken on that tradition since we have let our daddy go be with Jesus. That is amazing. And I have kind of carried on the tradition of both of their instruction. And, you know, the first time I tried to fix a Cajun dish for David, I didn't know that he had been talking to someone in his office about Louisiana women. And this guy had you know, kind of told him, you better be careful because they don't let her cook for you. And he's like, well, why? I love when she cooks for me. He goes, yeah, well, you need to go watch while she's cooking sometime. If she has some special seasonings, you better be careful. Well, of course I did. I mean, at that time I was still going to New Orleans quite often, and I would get my little Ziploc bags of seasonings in the French Quarter in the market, and I would season everything with that little blend of seasonings that I would buy at the French market. So when I pulled that out of the cabinet and dumped it into the dish I was making, he's like, what was that? What was that? What was that? Terrified him. I'm like, it's just seasonings. And yeah. So we were married right after that. He didn't have eyes for anyone else but me. I don't know how that happened. We do about a cup of each of the vegetables, which really turns out to be about 1 onion, 1 pepper, a bunch of celery. But you know, you may get a huge onion at some point and not use all of it. So just kind of think in terms of a cup of each of the vegetables.
As many of you know, the time that we're reaching now is Lent. Now, with Lent, we got a lot of things that end up happening. Now, we oftentimes have, you know, we kick things off with Mardi Gras, also known as Fat Tuesday, and I don't know if it goes under any other names, but
this would be a great Fat Tuesday dish.
It would be.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a Fat Tuesday dish, this might be a nice one to make for your family. But Lent itself is an interesting time in our church where we kick things off kind of with Fat Tuesday, more really with Ash Wednesday, where we see a lot of things start to happen. One, we see things in the church begin to change, the look of the church changes, decorations, Mass begins to be a little bit different. We drop out the Gloria, we drop out the Alleluia. And so suddenly things are just a little bit different. Now, one of the things which most everybody's very familiar with the idea of Lent is giving things up for Lent. Now, Lori, do you normally give up something for Lent, or what do you do for Lent?
I do. I try to give up something that is going to improve my health or bring me closer to Christ, like maybe give up television or something and replace it with something that's going to bring me closer to Christ. And sometimes it's more difficult than others because I have real high expectations of myself at the beginning of a Lent, and then Lent just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah, which is Lent actually 40 days?
I don't know, it seems like 100.
Yeah, I've always had people ask me, so, Father Jeff, what are you doing for Lent? Well, okay, Lent is first and foremost supposed to be a time of change. It's a time of change, it's a time of reconciliation, of fasting, and of prayer. It ought to be a time in which we, at the end of it, we are a different people. We ought to have something within us that has changed. Now, Lenten practices, oftentimes people will say, what is one giving up for Lent? What is one doing differently? But Lent is a time, as Lori was saying, where we try and find ways in which we can grow closer to Christ. And again, that may be through giving up something. Maybe we have something that would become kind of attached to. Something that would be healthy for us to give up and try and introduce some healthy habits and practices into our life.
This is usually what Mimi outsources to the grandchildren as well, now that they're old enough to use knives.
Okay. Now, do you have any tricks for not crying while you're chopping onions?
None that work.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of tricks, and you just have to kind of live with, if you're crying over the onion, it's a good onion. If the onion doesn't make you cry, throw it away. Something we used to do whenever the boys were younger during Lent is on Fridays, we would go silent, unplug everything. No television, no video games. At that time there were no cell phones, so it was quite easy. No computers. So that left us a lot of time to just sit around and talk or read. And it was wonderful. Unfortunately, our lifestyle today does not allow us to shut down on Fridays. But if you have younger children and you have the ability to do that, I highly recommend it. It's just one day a week where you don't answer the phone, don't use the computer, don't watch television. One day, just one day. And it's incredibly hard to do.
I bet. My parents were always really big about the idea that we don't eat in front of the television. And that was one of those things to where we didn't have a TV in the kitchen.
Right.
The TV was far away and it was always off during dinner times. And we never were allowed really to eat in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for. And hopefully this is one of these things which hopefully many of you have been able to do with some of these dishes as we've been making in the last few episodes, is to take time to eat as a family, to get together as a family, turn off the TV, spend that time together as a family, pray together, find out what's going on in each other's day. These are all important things which can be very easy to lose, and we don't want to lose them.
We set the clock for 20 minutes for the rice to cook. And as soon as our vegetables are chopped, we will add them to the meat, which I've reduced the heat on because it's completely browned, and that the sausage gave enough fat that I don't think we're going to need to add any additional butter or olive oil. But if your meat is extremely lean and you don't have enough fat with the meat to cook these vegetables, you might want to add a little unsalted butter or a little bit of olive oil to have enough liquid to get those vegetables cooked. And we're going to add the pepper and the celery and the onion and cook that until the celery is clear.